House of Delegates. I am Ann Cantor from the League of Women Voters of the Fairfax area. I will be your moderator for this part of the evening. The League of Women Voters of the Fairfax area is happy to have the following co-sponsors for this event: the American Association of University Women of Virginia, the Fairfax County Council of PTAs, the Voice of Vietnamese Americans, and Zeta Phi Beta Sorority. They are all nonpartisan and nonprofit entities. We want to thank all the volunteers from these organizations for their help with this event. All the sponsors would like to thank the candidates for taking this opportunity to engage the voters in their districts. We'd also like to thank Jim Southworth at Fairfax Public Access Television for using Inside Scoop for this meet and greet. This event will be uploaded to YouTube. And we thank all of you for viewing. We look forward to a lively, respectful discussion of issues important to you, the voters. This edition of Inside Scoop is for candidates whose districts lie mostly in eastern Fairfax County. This includes Lee, Mason, and Mount Vernon supervisory districts. Here are the rules. All candidates who will appear on the November 3rd ballot were invited to participate. In order to use time efficiently, the candidates may stand or stay seated, but stay in place when they are speaking. The candidates are seated at the table in the order they appear on the ballot by district numerical order, 35th, 36th, 37th. Introductory remarks and first question will go to the first candidate, with other candidates follow in order of seating. Candidates for the Senate will appear in the first half of this session and House of Delegates second. The switch will occur at about 7:30. Each candidate will be introduced by me and will deliver a 2-minute introductory statement. There will be 30 and 15-second warnings and a stop sign. Then we'll begin a question and answer. The studio audience has submitted written questions. Questions may also be submitted by email from the viewing audience, and an email direction should appear on the screen. Okay. All questions should be brief and specific because we want to cover a variety of topics. And questions to a specific candidate are not suitable for this format. However, a list of all the questions will be sent to all the candidates. Look for their answers in the public media. The moderator will ask a question to be answered by all the candidates on stage. All the candidates have agreed to these rules. Now, let us begin with opening statements.
Good evening and welcome to this meet and greet featuring candidates for the Virginia Senate and House of Delegates in the central region of the Fairfax area. My name is Olga Hernandez. I am former president of the League of Women Voters of the Fairfax area, and I will be your moderator tonight. The central region is comprised of the Braddock, Providence, and Springfield supervisory districts. The League of Women Voters is very happy to announce our partnership with the American Association of University Women, the Fairfax County Council of PTAs, the Voice of Vietnamese Americans, and Zeta Phi Beta Sorority. All these groups are nonpartisan and nonprofit entities. The League and the co-sponsors would like to thank the candidates for this opportunity to engage the voters in their district. We want to thank Jim Southworth, Director of Technology Development at Fairfax Public Access Television, for videotaping this event for Inside Scoop television show and for volunteering this time and expertise to upload this event to YouTube. We are live streaming now. We also want to thank you for viewing, and we look forward to a lively, respectful discussion of the state issues important to all the voters. Let me explain the format. All candidates that will appear on the November 3rd ballot were invited to participate. Candidates that could not appear were allowed to send a substitute to read a statement on their behalf. We have a live audience in the studio. In order to use time efficiently, the candidates may stand or stay seated for speaking. They will not be coming to the podium. In order to allow time for all Senate and House candidates running across Fairfax County, the various districts were divided into 3 regions of the county by supervisory districts, where most of their districts geographically lie. It's either in the eastern, central, or western, and this is for the central.
In 5, 4, 3.
Welcome to the meet and greet featuring candidates for the Virginia Senate and House of Delegates from the western region of the Fairfax area. The League of Women Voters of the Fairfax area is happy to have the following co-sponsors for this event: the American Association of University Women of Virginia, the Fairfax County Council of PTAs, the Voice of Vietnamese Americans, and the Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated. These are all nonpartisan and nonprofit entities. The League and its co-sponsors would like to thank the candidates for taking this opportunity to engage the voters in their districts. We express our appreciation to Jim Southworth, Director of Technology Development at Fairfax Cable Access Television, for videotaping this event for the Inside Scoop television program and for volunteering his time and expertise to upload it to YouTube. And we want to thank all the volunteers for their time and help in organizing this event. And we want to thank you, the audience, for viewing. We look forward to a lively and respectful discussion of the events and issues important to all of us in Fairfax County. All the candidates who will appear on the November 3rd ballot were invited to participate. Candidates who could not appear were allowed to send a substitute to speak on their behalf. Candidate substitutes will read the candidate's opening statement, but will not be allowed to answer questions. We have a live audience in the studio. In order to use time efficiently, candidates may stand or remain seated when answering questions. In order to allow time for all Senate and House districts running across Fairfax County and City, various districts were divided into 3 regions of the county by supervisory districts, where most of their geographical district lies, either eastern, central, or western. And they will appear in 3 separate sessions. This show is dedicated to the western region, comprised of Drainesville, Hunter Mill, and Sully districts. For this session, all candidates will appear at the same time. Candidates are seated in the order they appear on the ballot by district and in district numerical order. Introductory remarks and the first question will go to the first Senate candidate, with other candidates following. I will introduce each candidate, who will then give a 2-minute introductory remark with 30-second, 15-second, and stop alerts. The Q&A starts after all the candidates have completed their introductory remarks, and the response time for each question is 1 minute. Please hold your applause to the end. Index cards and pencils are being provided to the audience, and volunteers will collect and sort the questions, and then they will be placed into the hat for drawing. Questions may also be submitted by email from the viewing audience. The email address is insidescoop@nova.org, and you should see it along the bottom of your screen. For the Q&A, each candidate picks a card, hands it to me, and I will read the question and turn to the candidate for your answer. All questions should be brief and specific, only 1 question per index card, and not directed to a specific candidate. If time permits, I may ask a question to be answered by all of the candidates, and all the candidates have agreed to these rules. Now let's get started. Ms. Favola,
Yes.
Your opening statement, please. You have a microphone there. Ah, yes, there you go.
I want to thank the League and the Association of University Women for sponsoring this debate. I'm delighted to say that I have served in the Senate now for 1 term. I am running for re-election. My district goes from Arlington all the way up the Potomac River, including parts of Fairfax with Great Falls and Loudoun tacked on.
In the Senate, I have been a strong advocate for protecting children. I have also worked in the area of consumer health where it comes to healthcare policies and practices, mainly to improve transparency for our customers. I also have done a lot in the area of preventing sexual assault on college campuses. I serve as the Senate chair of the Women's Reproductive Health Caucus. I bring experience to the Senate. I served on local government for 14 years on the Arlington County Board and chaired that body several times. So in addition to experience at the local level and now experience at the Senate level, I bring passion and a commitment to progressive values.
Thank you. Now, Ms. Wegston.
Thank you very much. My name is Jennifer Wexton, and I represent the 33rd Senate District in Virginia. My district runs from the town of Herndon in the east through Loudoun County and into the town of Leesburg in the west. I was elected in January of 2014 to fill the seat that was vacated by Mark Herring when he became Attorney General. So I've actually been in the Senate for two sessions now, and I've had a very productive session. Prior to joining the state Senate, I served as an assistant Commonwealth's attorney for Loudoun County, so I was a criminal prosecutor. I also was an attorney and then a special justice working on mental health commitment hearings, which spurred me to then serve on the Community Services Board. And that's really been an interest of mine, is making sure that people have access to mental health services here in the Commonwealth. I also served as a substitute judge prior to entering politics. In the Senate, I serve on the Transportation, Rehabilitation and Social Services and General Laws and Technology Committees, as well as on a number of commissions, including Substance Abuse Services Council and the Northern Virginia Transportation Commission.
Thank you. Now we'll hear from our House of Delegates candidates. Ms. Murphy.
Yes. Thank you, Helen. I appreciate this opportunity. I am Delegate Kathleen Murphy. I was elected in a special election this past January, so I'm one of the most recent members to the House of Delegates. I represent the 34th District in Virginia, which encompasses parts of McLean, Vienna, Great Falls, Wolf Trap, and 7 precincts in Loudoun. I've served our community for many years in different ways. Served almost 7 years on the Human Services Council. I serve on the Finance Committee and the Privileges and Elections Committee in the House of Delegates, and it's been a great experience. I am very proud to have been elected. It's a great honor to be a member of the House of Delegates and to be able to serve the people of our community. I believe we had a very successful session this past year. We increased funding for our schools. We instituted ethics reform. We provided college credits for our veterans. I was very proud to have been a co-sponsor of that bill. We did an awful lot more. I am a problem solver. I want to continue to be part of the work of the General Assembly. For me, my passion is keeping our children and communities safe from gun violence, and this is something I have worked very hard on in a bipartisan way when it can be bipartisan. And I look forward to continuing this as we move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Murphy. Next, we'll hear from Mr. Plum.
Thank you very much, and I thank the League of Women Voters and the other organizations for sponsoring this opportunity tonight. I'm Ken Plum. I represent the 36th District in the House of Delegates. I have been there since 1982, but in asking for your vote to return, I want to assure you that I haven't lost any of my enthusiasm nor my excitement about working in this position. I'm an educator by background, so obviously I give a lot of attention to education issues. While we made some progress last past year on education funding, there's still a lot more to be done, not only in terms of funding for programs, but also in reforming how it is we run our schools. We have burdened our schools with too much mandates, too many mandates, and particularly too much standardized testing. We need to back off on that. We can still have quality schools by giving teachers more time to teach and requiring less testing. I also believe that we need to make an investment in preschool education. Preschool is the best investment that we could possibly make with a great return and future success of children as they go forward. I chair as both the founding chair and current chair of the Dulles Corridor Rail Association. We can continue to make improvements in our transportation system, but we need to look at alternatives as well as improving our roads. I am very passionate about the issue, as is Delegate Murphy, on the matter of preventing gun violence. Too much gun violence in our society. I introduced a universal background check bill this past year. I would expect to offer that again this year, and I have worked closely with organizations that are involved with gun issues to make sure that we move those forward in this session. Finally, I would mention too that in 1982 I introduced a bill to establish an independent redistricting commission. We're past time doing that. Gerrymandering creates part of the problem that we now have in the legislature, and I think passing an independent redistricting bill would improve that situation. I hope to have your support on November 3rd. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate Plum. Now, Delegate Sullivan.
Thank you, Helen, and thank you to the League for putting this event together this evening. My name is Rip Sullivan. I am the delegate for the 48th District, which encompasses that portion of McLean, sort of in the McLean High School, Longfellow Middle School area, and then cuts across the boundary into Arlington, Country Club Hills, down into Roslyn, and frankly all the way all down into Crystal City. I won this seat last summer in a sprint of a special election. Frankly didn't know at the time, but I was winning 2 elections at the same time because I am fortunate enough this year to not have an opponent. Although I was joking with Ken earlier that I was negotiating with my wife earlier today because I'm hoping to at least have 2 votes. It would be very embarrassing to win just 1-0. But, in any event, I have had what I hope the voters of the 48th District think has been a successful year in office. My first session, last session, I went down there with a variety of different priorities, worked with Ken and Kathleen on some very important gun safety legislation with Senator Favola on some of the school sexual abuse legislation. And I worked on some equality legislation as well. But the 2 issues I spent most of my time working on involved 2 areas that are very important to me. First, election law. I think we make it too hard to vote in the Commonwealth of Virginia and frankly nationwide, and I introduced some legislation with an eye towards making it easier for people to vote. I also, like Ken, am very involved in the issue of redistricting. Had some legislation which unfortunately did not get very far, but I sensed some traction, some legislation that would get us towards non-political, commission-based redistricting. And I hope we get to talk this evening about the environment, one of my real passions. I was involved in a lot of legislation last year having to do with renewable energy and making sure that Virginia embraces the new energy economy. Thank you, Helen.
Thank you. And next, Mr. Brubaker.
Hi, I'd like to thank the League. My name is Paul Brubaker. I'm running for as an independent in the 86th District for the Virginia House of Delegates. I'd like to say a little bit about my background and why I'm running. I'm running because the Virginia legislature desperately needs new thinking that breaks with the past and focuses on new, bipartisan, and pragmatic solutions that are right for Virginia's future. I bring a long and distinguished list of bipartisan accomplishments to this race, starting when I was a Republican staff director on the Senate Subcommittee on Oversight, where I worked with Democrats on the Hill and the Clinton administration to craft meaningful management reform legislation that eventually became law. Consequently, the Clinton administration asked me to join as a Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense, and later, President Bush asked me to join his administration as his top advisor on research, innovation, and technology at the Department of Transportation. In Virginia, I served as chairman of the Virginia Innovative Technology Authority under Governors Gilmore and Warner, where we successfully created tens of thousands of high-paying jobs, technology jobs, throughout the Commonwealth. But look, bipartisan accomplishments aren't enough. I wouldn't be running in this race if I didn't have very specific legislative proposals designed to improve the lives of Virginians. I'd like to just touch on one in the interest of time. We have the dubious distinction in our region to have the worst congestion and the highest toll burden in the entire nation. This is one of the reasons why I am proposing a 3% increase in the gas tax to provide needed infrastructure, a renegotiation of the one-sided and rip-off toll road contracts, and I want to convert the Greenway to a free public road. So you can tell by my positions that I'm not beholden to any particular party agenda. I'm a problem solver, and I am committed to one thing, and that is pragmatic, nonpartisan problem solving for the future of Virginia. If you believe this and want to share in my race, please join BrewBaker2015.com, and I appreciate your vote. Thank
Time
you.
is up. Thank you. Now, substituting for Jennifer Boysko is Jen Baker.
Hi, I'm here on behalf of Jennifer Boysko, who's running for a seat in the House of Delegates in the 86th District. My name is Jennifer Baker. I'm the Vice Mayor of the town of Herndon, which is of course part of the 86th District, and I'm also a friend of Jennifer's for the past 15 years. I'm really happy to be here to support Jennifer. I know she wanted to be here herself. She unfortunately had car troubles and is in New York City after dropping off her daughter to college. But Jennifer is a kind, considerate, smart, funny, she's an amazing person that I'm really proud to call friend. She cares about the things that I care about. She cares about education. I'm a former math teacher in Fairfax County, and Jen is a big advocate for supporting expanded pre-K. I know from my experience as a teacher, the better kids were prepared when they got to my classroom in 7th grade or 9th grade or 10th grade, the easier my job was and the better they were prepared for success in the future. So I think expanded pre-K is such a critical thing that the House of Delegates can support, and Jen supports that. She also wants to make sure that, again, with education, that when kids leave school, if they want to go to college, that they don't have a huge financial burden, and that they can go to college and leave and enter the workforce without the mounds of student loans that some of our students are facing today. She also, of course, is an advocate for transportation. And as with the Silver Line, which now she advocated when she worked with Supervisor John Faust's office, and the Silver Line, which of course touches in the town of Herndon, so that's near and dear to my heart, and making sure that, again, we build infrastructure and transportation that supports our growing economy. So please join me on November 3rd and support Jennifer Boysko and send her to the House of Delegates. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Baker. Now we'll move on to the question and answer portion of the program, and we'll start. I will. We'll start with Ms. Favola. If you will pick a question, and I will read it. Do you support Medicaid expansion? Why or why not?
Wow. That's an easy first question. I absolutely support Medicaid expansion. Medicaid expansion is a program that would cover working Virginians who right now work in jobs where the employer does not provide insurance. The federal government has made it very desirable for states to participate. The feds have offered to pick up 100% of the cost through 2016, and thereafter the federal commitment would not be lower than 90%. We are paying for this every day. Tax dollars from Virginians are going to the federal government to expand this, to expand Medicaid in other states. It is absolutely critical if we're going to continue to grow our economy, and if we're going to continue to keep health care costs, the rate of health care costs down. We must participate in Medicaid expansion. It's the right thing to do on many levels, and I will do my darndest to ensure that we move forward with that program.
Thank you very much. Now, Ms. Wexton. Okay. Will you support a mandatory energy efficiency resource standard? Our utilities are not on pace to meet Virginia's voluntary goal of 10% energy efficiency by 2022.
I would support all kinds of incentives to mandate, to bring our Commonwealth to greater energy efficiency. I think that there's no question that energy efficiency is absolutely necessary, and we have taken some steps in the General Assembly to make that happen. Absolutely, we had all been hoping that the Commonwealth would be able to do that voluntarily, but it doesn't appear that that's actually happening. So yes, I would indeed support mandating meeting those goals, but also by creating incentives to make it to make it easier for the providers to get to energy efficiency.
Thank you. All right, Ms. Murphy.
The dreaded question.
What will you do to help Fairfax County build rail mass transit?
We have been funding smarter solutions for transportation for the last few years, and we have really put a lot of work into making sure that the Silver Line is funded and to move it forward so that we can have mass transit take us all the way out to Loudoun and to Dulles Airport. I think this is going to solve the problems that we're also concerned about, and that is getting people off of the highways, getting, really remediating congestion and making more people be able to move more easily through on our roads. Congestion in our area is just a nightmare, and mass transit is a huge solution.
Thank you. All right, you can keep your microphone because they have one on their table. All right, Delegate Plum. Thank you. Do you support closing the gun show loophole that allows the purchase of firearms from a private dealer without a background check?
Thank you for that. Thank you for that question. As a matter of fact, I introduced a bill in the last session of the General Assembly that would have done just that. Governor McAuliffe, as part of his proposal to try to prevent gun violence, suggested that we should close the gun show loophole to ensure that people who make private sales, as opposed to simply purchasing from registered dealers, that they be also put into a background check situation. So yes, I enthusiastically support that. Not only do I support it, you can expect that I will introduce legislation to cause that to happen. The 14th of every month, I go out to NRA as part of a vigil on the part of a number of groups that want to work to prevent gun violence, to make the point that we need to tighten up our laws in Virginia. We've been going in the other direction. It's time to turn that around.
Thank you. All right, Delegate Sullivan. What is your position?
I can just choose any.
No, what is your position on women's health care, access to abortion, pre- and postnatal care for the poor?
Thank you, Helen. I was actually hoping to get Senator Wexton's question so I could tell folks about the mandatory energy efficiency standards I introduced in the last session, but I'm happy to answer this question instead.
Great, thank you.
I have long been a proponent of a woman's right to choose. The risk of sounding like Terry McAuliffe, I will stand as a rock against any effort to roll that back. My position is that we need to preserve a woman's right to choose. My position is that anything that would take us in the other direction, I will resist strongly.
Thank you very much, Delegate Plum. And Mr. Brubaker.
Hopefully there's a good one left. There we go, I'll take off.
Okay. What would you do, if anything, to ensure women make equal pay, make the same pay as men?
It should simply be the law. It is the law. So it's a matter of enforcement and practice, right? So I just, you've got to make sure that there are penalties and enforcement. But I don't know necessarily that, we want a equal wage police force, but at the same time, we should make it relatively easy for people to issue complaints, exercise due process, and not be penalized for doing so.
Thank you. All right. Now this time we're going to change the order of the questions, and Senator Wexton will go first. People who live in apartment buildings or shaded houses do not have access to solar power. Do you support community solar gardens so they can have access to solar power?
Absolutely, I support community solar pooling, so that not only that more people can take advantage of solar power, but that we can have greater efficiencies of scale to actually encourage the use of solar. There has been some progress made in the General Assembly in this area, but we still have a very long way to go. So that would be something that I would certainly champion in the General Assembly.
Thank you very much. Now, Senator Favola, you're going to go first here. The senators always go first.
Oh, dear. Oops, there you go.
Thank you.
I didn't see it.
Okay. If a constitutional amendment to overturn Congress's overturn Citizens United is passed by the Congress, would you support it in the General Assembly?
That's an interesting question, because you talked about the Virginia Constitution.
Yeah.
The Virginia Constitution doesn't ban groups, so I'm not really sure what the purpose of that, where that question is heading. But I mean, I think maybe the questioner is getting to the point where, you know, government should be accessible to the little guy, and campaign reform should be something that everybody embraces. And I think, as a citizenry, and certainly as elected leaders, we should exercise some controls over campaign donations, and in fact, during this past session, we did pass an ethics bill, and I believe that will take us forward in terms of being more accountable and more transparent on the campaign donation level.
Thank you very much. Now, actually, we're going to change the order of the delegates, and Delegate Plum will go first this time. What will you do to increase funding for state universities and colleges so they can admit more in-state tuition students?
Well, the questioner is correct in the fact that we have, over the past years, particularly after the 2008 recession, backed off on our funding for colleges and universities. That's not wise to do. One of the ways that we can promote economic development in our Commonwealth is to make sure that we have a trained workforce. Our community colleges are key to that. We made some steps forward in the last session to try to build up the programs for workforce training in the community colleges, but we need to build on that in the future. Likewise, too, we need to take a close look at programs that are offered in the college and universities to make sure that they're appropriate and ones that we can support. These are investments, not expenditures. These pay off in the long run with a growing economy for Virginia, and I would support them.
Thank you. All right, Delegate Sullivan. Do you support the President's Clean Power Plan, and have you thought about how Virginia should comply?
I do, and I clearly should have been sitting in Senator Wexton's seat this evening so that I could have talked about the Community Solar Garden Bill I introduced last session. But I certainly do support the Clean Power Plan. It is something that Virginia not only should embrace, but we should be a leader on. And frankly, the fastest way to meet the Clean Power Plan's goals would be through energy efficiency. It is the fastest, cheapest way to get there, and Virginia needs to be doing a lot more in that regard. And returning to what I said earlier, I did introduce an energy efficiency resource standard.
Thank you very much. All right, Mr. Brubaker.
Okay, I'm not going to dig through this time.
There you go.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. We'll take this one. Will you vote for a bill allowing local library systems in Fairfax to put up signs declaring them to be gun-free zones sponsored by the Newport News delegate?
Sure, absolutely. I mean, I think local communities have the right to, and they don't, thanks to Dillon's rule and a whole bunch of really other silly traditions that we've had for years and years, which we need to take a hard look at. And just by way of background, I spent time in graduate school writing home rule charters for communities in Ohio. So I think there's some issue there, but we ought to let localities really focus in on what they want to do, whether it's guns, whether it's regulation on health, safety, dress, whatever they want to do, they should be able to do it.
Thank you. All right, now, Delegate Murphy. Yes.
Oh, this is frightening. It's 12 pages long.
In Virginia, residents are prohibited from working together and to develop solar panels and share power. Will you support legislation to permit community net metering of renewable energy?
Yes. Yes, I will. Solar power and wind power and all of these new technologies that are being developed are really, really vital assets and are going to go a long way in solving some of our energy problems. We need to move forward. We need to explore all of the energy avenues that are available to us, and net metering is one, and I'm very supportive.
Thank you very much. Now, Senator Favola. See what you get this time. The Pope is coming to Congress. What is your position on climate change and on greater energy efficiency in Fairfax County, as well as a greater variety of accessibility to renewable energy? Esther, the microphone.
I think that's a good question for me. I do sit on Governor McCulloch's Climate Change and Resiliency Commission. So we were just today looking at options for making the state a model state in the area of more renewable energy. One of the issues we came up with was we have to probably create incentives for folks to go down that path, both to provide the renewable energy and then to purchase it. Where we were also talking about climate change in terms of helping local officials do a better job with land use planning as it relates to changes in the climate or anticipated changes in the climate. There were some strong economic arguments made for actually going green and addressing these issues head on. I'd be happy to work with any Fairfax officials on this topic.
Thank you. All right, Senator Wexton. Okay. I think this is the same question. I've seen it before, so I don't know how it got in there. Anyway, would you like to just pick another one? Thank you. Do you or do you not support nonpartisan redistricting reform? If not, why not?
I absolutely support nonpartisan redistricting. We have gotten to the point in the General Assembly and in the nation where the elected officials are choosing our voters, and the voters should be the ones choosing the elected officials. We had some wonderful bills, constitutional amendment in the Senate that passed with bipartisan support, only to be killed in the House of Delegates in early morning committee meetings without recorded votes. There is no doubt that the gridlock that we see in Congress and the gridlock that we see, that we're starting to see a lot more of in the General Assembly, is the product of gerrymandering, and it needs to stop.
Thank you. All right, now first from the House of Delegates, rotating the order, Delegate Sullivan, you go first this time. Okay. Will you support legislation that will put an end to coal subsidies?
I not only will, but have. We've been pumping millions and millions and millions of dollars into the coal industry in Virginia. I think it's important that we recognize that we are living in a period of transition, and there is going to be some disruption. There already has been a lot of disruption down in coal parts of Virginia, and we need to focus on making sure that those folks have new ways to make a living and that we move away from coal in Virginia and frankly across the country. Interesting statistic I learned recently is that there are now more people working in solar in the United States than are working in coal. We are headed in that direction. We need to stop subsidizing coal, start subsidizing new, efficient energy, and coal subsidies are part of what's holding us back.
Thank you very much. Mr. Brubaker. Virginia's GDP is currently sitting at 0.02. How will you change the breakdown of government that occurs at the state level and to influence the economic recovery of Virginia?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you very much for that. The economic growth is clearly stagnated, and the governor's been doing a lot trying to attract new jobs to Virginia. And he's having